Hello,
Hello.
we're back. You
Back.
survived. You survived the interlude for being you
Yes,
filling air for 2 minutes.
it's fun.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. So yes, we're back with another guest, Federico. Hello. Nice to meet you.
thanks for having
Yes, it's
me.
a pleasure. Tell us about yourself. Like, what are you currently at the University of Bath?
I've just come back, and I'll say why I came back as a lecturer. So I was here before as a PhD student.
Mm-hmm.
It's my second experience here,
Yeah.
and the first one was fantastic, I hope also the second one will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been in Vienna for a while doing a postdoc.
Okay. Oh,
So,
nice.
but yeah, so that's just
Mm-hmm.
went back like a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like maths PhD, like what sort of math sort of area?
Okay, so the area question is a bit. So I'm in between a few areas. So
Okay.
when I came back here, I said, well, where should I place myself? Because I'm not really a probabilist because I of course use methods from probability, but not to the extent of I mean just doing probability.
Mm-hmm.
I do a little bit of numerics.
Okay.
I'm sort of in between. So that's how I would phrase things.
Yeah.
So I started here during my PhD analyzing stochastic equations with Johannes Dimmer and Tony Charlotte.
Okay. Yeah.
And at the beginning, it was mostly we were trying to answer questions related to analysis.
Right. Okay.
But then I picked up also some numerical aspects once I moved to Vienna. So I kind of did both, but at the time I didn't know. So my background was more theoretical.
Sure.
And now I've got a little bit of everything, which if you just look at things on a singular basis, then
Mhm.
it doesn't really make sense. But when you add things up, then
Interesting. Okay.
so it has to be seen, I think, in this way.
In the whole.
So what's just now your current role at Bath? What's your current role in the department or my current role? Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, research and teaching.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. On the right now, I'm mostly in research.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've arrived just after the beginning of the semester, so I haven't.
Okay.
Most things I'll probably be doing in the second term. So
Sure.
right now, I'm wrapping projects that I had before,
Mhm.
opening up new ones, getting to learn how the job works. It's an experience. And you're back in the maths department, and you're in the maths department here. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Nice. So like you were part of Samba, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I was a SAM student, and that was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Really?
Because I wanted to do a PhD,
Okay.
so that was just the thing. I don't know why. It's just
Yeah.
I've always known, like after I studied maths at university, and then I said,
Mhm.
okay, I want to do a PhD,
Mhm.
and I want to do it abroad
Okay.
because I just said, well, that's something I want to try. And the way I selected Bath was absolutely non-scientific because I was told I had at the time I had two options, and for Bath I asked like some professors that I knew back then, why should I go to Bath or why should I not? And I was expecting some answers like some uh, long answers,
Okay.
but instead all I got was like just go from
Really?
from at least four people, and I mean I said okay. So I didn't really know any specific reason why this this option would be better than the other one that I had at the time. But I just said, well, I don't know any better. These are professors. Why should I question
Yeah.
this?
Sure. Yeah. They have more
And
knowledge
then
than me.
and then I just followed the gut.
Oh wow.
And one of them just said because at the time actually I was supposed to be sent by cohort one, but then I deferred for 1 year.
Okay.
And one of the professors said, "Well, there's this thing which is just being funded. This thing was Sambas,
Okay.
and there's Andreas Cipriano and Tommy Lesky involved who just set this up, and it's kind of new, but we don't know what it's going to be, and but it looks pretty cool, and just go."
Ooh.
And yeah, I had a
Nice.
great time.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
it was a bit so it was a random random decision, but it seems I have worked.
Just something like this, and you followed advice of people. So it wasn't like you got a dartboard out and like chucked a dart to
Yeah,
that and
but
then
it
landed on Bath.
right, it felt pretty random to me because I had nothing to
That's what
back
going in
things up
blind.
than people just saying just go, but we're not telling you why.
Yeah.
And that was but as I say, like that they were right.
Yeah. Yeah. So where was your home institute? You said like going abroad. Like where were you like originally studying?
So I grew up in northern Italy.
Okay.
That's where I did my bachelor and master student
Mhm.
courses. Um, and then at that point, I was ready to go abroad somewhere.
Yeah. Nice.
And I stayed abroad longer than I thought, actually.
Yeah.
Because then I moved to Vienna for a postdoc.
Yeah.
And then I was just looking around for positions, and I found this one. It was like, okay, this is fun. I know this place.
Mhm.
See, I didn't know what would happen, but I'm quite happy to be back. And
Fortuitous. Fortuitous for the academic position came in Bath.
yeah. So again, it's one of those things that you can't really control because
Mm.
uh, getting the job in academia, I mean, it's a matter of like very different circumstances,
Mm.
and there's a lot of things that have to sort of go into the right place at the right time, and yeah. So I didn't plan to somehow apply to Bath like with in advance, just like that first time. The option came back to me again as
Mhm.
as an option, literally popping out of nowhere. So
Okay.
it's gone.
Uh,
But I mean, I've been looking for a while because of
yeah.
course getting a job in this business
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
you have to fight for it.
So we were just one of the sort of topics of conversation we kind of guessed before was a lot on like how to navigate through the academic landscape and how to sort of the ladder of academic positions and how sort of challenging it can be to find roles and stuff. How did you find your sort of navigating the troubled waters of post
Right.
PhD
Ooh, okay.
post PhD to academic?
Well, it's not been plain sailing.
Mm.
Let's say I adopted like a strategy which I think it's reasonable. Let's say so but I was looking for different positions at the time,
Mhm.
also ranging from postdocs or to non-tenure positions
Mm.
and tenure positions. And the rationale was basically the further away I go from home,
Yeah.
the somehow the more I would like to get from the position I get. And that was the rationale.
Interesting.
So because I couldn't see like many other ways of making this work, because of course I had some interviews in other places. Some of them didn't work out.
Mm.
That's how that's
How it
supposed to go
works.
in this field.
Sure.
And then that was a little bit of the rationale behind this.
And this is sort of like a sort of nice way of that's a nice sort of strategy to have. It's like the further away you go, the greater cost it is. So the more you sort of want the sort of payoff of the position.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Put it like this. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And and I've always been on the look for so I don't know how to if I'm an applied or a pure mathematician at this point,
Okay.
because I mean I started up pretty pure, then I moved into going more and more applied, and also that was reflected in what kind of jobs I was looking for
Right.
as what kind of position. So I've also been looking during the 4 years as being postdoc. I was also looking for places in industry because
Okay.
that was also one of the natural things. And there have been times in which I was questioning, like, should I go on in academia or should I not?
Hmm.
I've always wanted to do something research based.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it felt like the right choice to me. When so where and what it would be, then that was up for debate. And depending on the specific time, if you ask me this question like um, with 6 months distance in between the same question, then the answer might change, or at least for the postdoc, it could have changed
Okay.
because yeah, now I'm here. So I got one, but when I didn't, then it was like, okay, what should I prioritize? What's the chance of getting into this field? What's the chance
Mm,
of getting into that one? But always with a positive spirit. So I liked what I was doing. I still like what I do now.
Nice.
So I always have that kind of somehow feeling driving what I was doing,
Yeah.
despite the process of somehow getting into academia not being easy. That's not easy. And
mm,
at some point, I was also ready to say, okay, if this doesn't work, if I can't get in, then fine.
Yes.
It could have gone either way. So
yes.
I was prepared for this
Hmm.
with nothing to fear. I mean, it's
Hmm.
Mm,
it's just I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
as
So you
long as
mentioned how like you started off like doing a bit more like pure sort of stuff you'd say, and then with like Vienna and maybe trying to get a bit more like applied in some sense. And like during like Samba, you've got like these like integrative think tank sort of things like industry connections. Do you feel like they like fed into your decision of like wanting to go a bit more applied, or was it just like a natural sort of thing for you to do anyway?
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Because the first time I saw them, it was ITT3,
Okay.
and for me it was a completely different experience
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I that's not something that I was used to. So I've been studying like pretty much on textbooks, doing
Mm,
exams, and
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
getting my grades. But that was like a completely different experience. And I mean, I was lucky because for that specific ITT, one of the partners was related to a subject area that I like, the
Nice.
mathematics, and
Yeah.
that's civil aviation.
mm,
I always
Okay.
like that for I like airports, like metrics at airports, specific
Oh,
fees
interesting.
of airlines, and all related to that. And that played in nicely because one of the partners was, I think, GKN at the time. Uh,
GKNR.
it's like composite materials,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like an engineering firm.
engineering
Got
firm.
you.
And so I was like, well, there we go. If there's a chance for me to explore a little bit more applied maths, well, this seems like the
Yeah.
right thing to do. And again, one of the so we had the whole week unfolding with like projects of different kinds.
Hmm.
And at that point, I mean, I could have also said, well, maybe I want to choose a PhD project more related to aviation. In the end, I didn't because I still liked what I was somehow doing before,
Sure.
which was stochastic equations. But again, I had so Sam. I've been quite grateful to the Samba program because it just gives you the opportunity to just say, uh, okay, I have a lot of options that I can take, and it's really up to me. So what I want to do, what I feel like doing,
Hmm.
from doing abstract maths
Hmm.
to just the most applied thing. Uh, it just gives you the option, and I had it, and that was great. That was great.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the IGT itself was, I found it like it was sort of a bit chaotic, but
Mm,
I was not like prepared for that kind of thing because I've always been like studying, uh,
yeah, just
on just in a more like there's a unit, there's the material, you
do the.
study, you absorb it, then
Sure.
you do the exam, and that was
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
been,
Yeah.
it felt like
There's a good
that,
energy. There's a nice energy to an IT to that line.
yes, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that was really good.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like during like undergrad, whenever I had like some maths problem, I could just like wait a week and then the solutions just like appear. But like when you're at a point and you don't even know what sort of like questions you should even be asking in the first place. That's something where like ITTs like really help like build and establish these kind
Exactly,
of skills.
exactly. But also right now, I mean,
Mm.
the more you do research, the more you realize that the you're trying to get to a point where somehow no one has, I mean, or at least no one has found exactly what you would
Hmm.
like to find. So there's a whole mess of things in between. I mean, but that's and it's challenging because at the end of the day, there's no solution sheet
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're trying to
yeah.
get to someone that where there's no solutions. Uh, and if you just have to take it in the right way of saying,
Hmm.
okay, I'm just going to do my best to understand this aspect of this field that I generally like. Uh, there are times in which you're frustrated because you're
Of
saying, okay,
course.
I'm not getting anywhere, so I'm not rely. I mean,
Yeah.
as a PhD student, the first 6 months kind of like that because I've studied like stochastic equations, and I thought, okay, uh, my project is related to that area. I should be able to uh, do something within a reasonable amount of time. Then I found out that all the theorems that I had studied were not applicable because, of course, the thing was new. I mean, it was that's why it's supposed to be set up. But at the time, I was still in the mindset, right? Okay, there's a solution that someone has found, but that's not. And so at some point, I said the equation that I studied didn't fall into any category of things that I studied before, but it was for good reason. So I said, why am I studying this? But now I see that after like I got some hints from my supervisors at the time, a lot of hints, some work. Then we said, okay, let's try the simplified model, which should give some result of this kind. We didn't know whether it would. It had some limitations, so we assumed like, okay, this result would be valid if we're in a certain regime.
Sure.
And to my taste, that was again strange because I was coming from the idealized master courses in which every assumption goes into place and you can just use things. But then the more and more you go on, the more you realize that you just need to find new stuff, and if you get stuck in between, which happens a lot, you're always. So, I mean, you're always going to take that at some point, in a harsh way. Sometimes it's like when things don't work for a while, then I said, "Oh, come on." But then you have to take it on average. So research is one of those things, at least for me, where there's high peaks of like productivity, and all this eventually stuff starts to make sense. And it just happened 3 days ago, by the way. So I was stuck on a thing that I couldn't really figure out.
Yeah.
That was driving me. It's like, why is this not true? I mean, it should be true. And then I just left it there for a few days, and then I got it, and it was like one of the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Literally a one line computation, and I said, okay, just let it simmer, and then. So there are ups and downs, but if on average you like what you do, then you're in the right place, I would say. And
Yeah.
there's gonna be ups and downs.
I think that's probably a fair comment. Most things are like the advice I always had when like picking what to do. Was I going to do a PhD? Was I going to go somewhere else? It's like as long as I think you're doing something you enjoy doing, I think that's where you should be.
Yeah, definitely like my own research progress is definitely like non-linear, but at some point I'll reach some like invisible sort of like threshold of knowledge where suddenly it's like, oh, I can do it.
Yeah.
And like when I look back, it's like, oh, it was like these steps are like so simple and straightforward, but of course at the time it's not at all like that.
Well, if I read my papers now backwards in time, it's like this is I should have known this at the time, but that's not how you see it at the time. I mean, let's see. The thing I realized 3 days ago might still be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. I don't know. But still, I have to live in the mindset of like, on average, things are progressing. And
Absolutely.
Solutions are the last place you look.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you kind of were set on doing like research in some capacity, but not necessarily like in academia or like outside. So also you sort of like you are currently in academia. Was there anything that like particular drew you back into academia specifically, or anything that make you like not?
um, I wouldn't. So this, I've been thinking about this myself, and I can't really give an answer to that.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I like most aspects of academia. No, of course, I mean, I don't like all of them because, of course, it's not a. I mean, some things I just don't particularly enjoy doing, but the most things I do.
Yeah.
I've tried somehow. I was in an internship for a while, for a few months, during as part of my postdoc program, in which somehow the goal was to have a more applied project on the coding side. So I learned a bit of coding there. Um, and that was an insight in a different world, because it was more like a shorter time project. So we had to deliver something on a much shorter time scale. So the techniques and the expectations and the requirements were different. So that was useful to see.
Mhm.
And on that side, during the internship, what I appreciated was that you could basically go home on a Friday evening and say, okay, I had to do this by today because that was the deadline. The task was not necessarily huge because, of course, I was supposed to be delivering that in a couple of days.
Sure.
Did I manage to do that? Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But so the time frame was much quicker, and that in some sense can be comforting. And academia has a much longer time frames, which somehow it makes things a little bit more challenging if uh, you have to accept that results will you will find results, but it might take much longer. So at least that's my experience. But going back to the question, why I somehow got pulled back into academia, I don't know. So it ended up like this. It amounts to the fact that I like it to a good extent. But as I said, it could have gone also in a different way. For example, had I not found this opportunity in Bath, or had I found something somewhere else in academia or not, because I was also looking for let's say data science jobs or something like this.
So it just so happened that the job in Bath came up before a job in industry came out.
Yeah, and I felt that it was good. It was not just because it came up.
It's a worthwhile job to do.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. Yeah. But for a definitive answer, that I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. So we've always all kind of touched upon how at times doing a PhD is not smooth sailing. Would you have any personal advice for someone who would currently be in a slump, if you will?
In a slump. So I've been in a slump myself several times, and also just 3 days ago.
Yeah.
It's not just fresh. It's just it's something that you go on. And well, the thing is, first of all, open up. So you have to talk to people. So you'll realize that you may be in a phase in which stuff is not working or it doesn't seem to be working, which could be either the two things. Look around. So speak to. I mean, for the Samba experience, it's easier because you can speak to people in the cohort, and there's a fair chance that somehow people will have gone through the same thing at some point. Don't give up because it's not like, I mean, things eventually will turn somehow in your favor. And I mean, speak to your supervisor. Supervisors are there also to guide you, especially through times like these, because they have more experience. They've gone through this themselves. Most of them, they have gained the experience of dealing with this on a human basis, because it's not just like the computation doesn't work. The first one that doesn't work will drive you crazy. The 10th will just probably be better received. And you, as a PhD student, you're probably going through one of the first ones, which are the hardest, because you're not like, what do I do with this? I mean, I've spent 3 months, 6 months doing something, I haven't produced an output. First of all, that's not true, because in many thought processes that we do in this job somehow are hidden. So sometimes we make mistakes, and those are just mistakes. But some other times we just somehow accumulate experience, and then it all comes back to us really quickly. Just when you said, well, I've reached this threshold, and then from that point onwards, okay, this fits into this bucket. This I can describe in these terms. This result, now I can believe why it's true. I still have maybe to figure out the details, but now there's a whole different perspective.
Yeah. I find that there's a lot of times that people are like, oh, how many hours of, particularly when I'm starting cohort with Bowen's talking about how many hours of research should we be doing a week? How many hours, I've only managed to sit at my desk and do 10 hours of work this week or 5 hours of work this week. Has that been a productive week? And it's there's a lot of stuff I'm my sort of mentality is hours I'm procrastinating are going to be worthwhile because I will eventually get things done.
that's okay. I envy those people who manage to have like a proper 9 to 5 routine in this job
Mm.
because I mean, for me, it's
Mm.
really difficult because it's not you're sitting down at 9 a.m. With a theorem to prove in front of you and just say, well, if I put 8 hours into this, eventually I'll get
Yeah.
there. That's not how it works.
Mm.
And also the time that you procrastinate, to an extent, procrastinating or somehow giving yourself some room to think without actually being at the desk is useful because the thought process goes on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As long as, of course, I mean, you have to get stuff done, so it's not just you
Yeah,
can
you can't
procrastinate and done.
yeah,
Yes, but a little bit of this is useful. Also, my dad was also in academia,
Mm.
and he was just telling me every now and then you should just just not do things, just procrastinate, just
Yeah.
think about it in like at a later stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, but why? I have 3 hours left somehow before I'm supposed to go home. It's like, but you cannot force these things
Yeah.
on yourself. You have to give you some room, especially given the thing that we're supposed to be finding, or we want to make increments of what's already
Mhm.
known.
Mm.
So we have to give ourselves space and
Yeah,
freedom
absolutely.
and
Be kind to yourself. If you're not getting work done
Yeah,
in a certain
of
point,
course.
just have a break, go do something else.
exactly. And it's and again, being kind to yourself is crucial. And for me, I mean, had I had this interview like a week ago with that thing that I couldn't figure out, I was still gonna. I've gone through this now several times with the projects that I've got stuck
Mhm.
at some point, and then gone well. That I knew also when I was stuck. Now that I was like, okay, this is one of those
Yeah.
times. It's not the best,
Sure.
but it'll pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes,
Yeah.
but just be kind to yourself on yourself because we're here to not have a nice
Yeah,
time.
I think there's definitely been like a also realizing we're in a privileged position of being doing an academic world, where like whatever you're doing, even if like you have a cutting edge of human knowledge, it's like the research you're doing is the extent of the forefront of what humans have thought about before, which is like sort of one of those slightly egotistical maybe thoughts to have that the work I'm doing is new.
And you have to find also the area you work in. You have to look into the literature of like
Mm.
all the hundreds of people
Yeah.
who have worked on that, who have produced amazing work on that, and saying, okay, I can maybe add my own bit. And adding your own bit doesn't have to be a monumental increment. That's
No.
not what I mean. If you can get one, that's phenomenal. I mean, it's like adding something new or presenting a new topic under a different way,
Mm.
doing a good survey on stuff that it's out there, but it's somehow spread out and not collected in
Yeah.
a way that people can actually read it.
Yeah.
So it's different aspects that come into play,
Mhm.
and we've got to be. I think it's a job that, I mean, at the end of the day, we deserve to be happy,
Mm.
and the stretches of times in which things don't seem to work, they will put us down because they do. I mean,
Yeah.
but remember, uh, it's a very non-uniform uh, somehow job,
Mm.
and I think that's. And then you learn how to smooth it out
Mm.
with time.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And for me, it's still pretty noisy.
I
Still, so
think as we were saying, it's important to do research, but also like as we're saying, have time to do other things and like other hobbies and stuff. And some people are chatting asking about civil engineer, not civil engineering, civil aviation stuff. And I wanted to know a bit more about civil aviation, sort of why are you interested in like do you fly? Do you fly?
um, well, I
Do you,
fly because I need to, but
oh, you don't? Yeah.
but no, I just love facts about
Mm.
aircraft, civil aircrafts, like how the civil aviation somehow market grew over time.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah.
Details about the airports, just pure numbers behind. Some people like doing statistics on like sports, like
Yeah.
Right.
I do the same for flights like carriers, airports, and all these kind of things. It's always interested me.
Do you have a top civil aviation fact?
Top civil aviation facts? No, actually not.
Ooh.
It's more about like being aware of some of the numbers of many specific aspects. But I couldn't pinpoint like
What about your favorite airport?
favorite airports. Like, I mean, it grew attached to Bristol, but that's more an emotional thing. Flying in and out of for a long time. Bristol's actually a pretty cool airport, I think, also for pilots, because it's well, okay, let's put it this way: its runway is pretty short, and it has a huge bump. So for pilots, that must give them a little bit of a challenge, or at least something to look forward to, depending on. It's not a straight. I mean, it's a pretty short runway. At the time, I mean, but my experience was related to, I mean, between 2015 2019, going through the airport was pretty smooth. I just liked also the interior. It's not really scientific reasons, and it was again going back and forth from. They had just added flights from Milan, so close to my hometown in Bristol.
So convenient.
It's a convenient thing.
Oh, nice.
Do you have aircraft? Favorite aircraft?
Favorite aircraft? I wanted to say, well, the A220 sounds like a cool one. It's it's a smaller version of the A320. I like it.
I don't know my planes.
No, but I like them also.
Yeah.
I've got some favorites. Like I've flown 787, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But again, from both major carriers like Airbus and Boeing, I can have favorites. So I always look out for the model, the aircraft I'll be flying in advance to a trip.
Okay.
What
to expect?
Whether it's a model that has new engines, so that means like reduced noise, like my headphones, otherwise I can't. But that's just for my own advice.
Thank you. I mean, sort of coming towards the end of the interview now, but like, there's like, just sort of wrapping up. If you had any advice for someone who's just finished their PhD, looking for, postdoc work, or maybe a postdoc who's like in between roles, what advice would you give to them, or maybe even to your younger self?
To my younger self, I would probably say, okay, also at the time when I finished my PhD, I also debated whether to go look for jobs outside of academia or not. In the end, my passion was strong enough for me to say, let's keep going for a postdoc.
Yeah.
And by the way, that postdoc also had a placement option. So in a way, I said, okay, this should be a choice. I would say, do look out for, if you like, okay, assuming that you like doing research, from the most applied side to the most theoretical side. I mean, if you do, then I think you should be looking in both places.
Yeah.
Because you would be doing yourself a favor. Because, I mean, I didn't know before doing my internship many aspects that you find in industry. And you're just maximizing the chances of getting a good job for you. Because in either category, getting a good job is challenging. You have to work a lot for it. And that was the same for me. I just said, okay, if this academic somehow career doesn't work out, and that's been in the back of my mind for some time, just due to it's down to, I mean, to personal abilities, but a lot of luck and circumstances, things going your way. It's down to a lot of things. So do yourself a favor and just keep both. I mean, if your research allows for both theoretical and applied applications, then if you like them both, then keep eyes open on both sides. And if you can do an internship or a placement or anything that gives you an idea of what you're not doing at the moment, that for me was quite good. I really enjoyed many aspects of what I saw on the other side. that you will not find in academia, and they're still there somehow. Sometimes I think, okay, but this was better in industry. That's fine, but that's part of the yeah. Don't limit your options, and try things out, especially during the PhD. During the PhD, it's easier to, I think, at least try to spend a few months. Either if you have the option of doing a placement, then definitely. Uh, if you have the option to do an internship, definitely. But take the chance, even if you think you know it's definitely not for you.
Yeah.
Even in that case, it could be worth it because either it reinforces your thought, or it gives you something new. So I would, yeah, this is my
sound advice. I'd say,
and that was the guiding principle for me.
Very nice.
I can't possibly let you leave. I don't know how well people can hear me from behind the camera. But Emiko mentioned, I don't know if you recognise the sofa, but this was stolen from the social space.
Hang on, yes, but this was the one which was broken at the time.
Was it broken? Okay,
Yes,
so Emiko
yes.
decided to drop it into conversation that you used to regularly like to take naps on the sofa in the social space during your PhD.
I wouldn't say regularly, but yeah. Yes. It was me. It was not just me. It was also someone else, but I can't remember. No, but this used to be. So it's been fixed now.
You've just
yeah, it's been fixed. How did you? So what's in the social space instead of this from now?
There isn't.
There isn't.
Yeah,
No,
just empty
no.
space from where it was.
Okay. Right.
It's a well-loved sofa, and we've just adopted it.
I mean, this makes more sense as a like a nap room because it's confined.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
true. Yeah,
there's nobody
private.
because before this was stuffed with like books and
just storage room.
all over the place.
I mean, if you do ever want to come and take a
It's
nap
bookable.
again,
It's a bookable book.
It is.
It's bookable to master apartment.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's
If we ever see you booking it, we'll know not to disturb you.
that sounds okay. Now I noticed this, but now
I used to have a media version.
Yeah, it's been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
It's really interesting to hear your perspectives.
Okay, we'll go on a very little BRB screen and then come back with just Henry and I to talk about some stuff, next streams and what have you. But yeah, we shall see you in a bit.